Hola, ¿cómo estás? Soy Eliud Carpinteiro y hoy vamos a hablar de YouTube. La iglesia de CRECER Church, un partner de North Point en Ontario, Canadá, el año pasado ellos promediaban de 200 a 250 vistas en su canal de YouTube. Hoy, un año después, en el 2020, promedian más de 4,500 vistas semanales. Estamos hablando de un crecimiento de 18 veces más que lo que promediaban el año pasado. Hoy me acompaña Justin Piercy, el director de programación de servicio y el gran responsable de este éxito en su canal de YouTube. Definitivamente tenemos mucho que aprender, así que si no te quieres perder ningún detalle, quédate conmigo hasta el final. Justin, thank you so much for your time, my friend. Thank you so much. I have heard a lot about you. I know that you are a really talented and creative guy. So, Justin, before we jump into our interview that we have for today, could you give us an overview of what your job is and what you do at CRECER Church?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say thank you, Eliud, to having me on, and hope it's helpful. And appreciate the flattery. But just like you and everybody else who I'm sure is going to watch this, we're just figuring all this out too. So we've just maybe had a little more practice at it. That's all. So right. I do want to say that on the upfront, but I do appreciate it. By the way, thank you. I'm the service programming director at CRECER Church up in Canada. I have been doing that since 2009, so I think that's 11 years now. And we're a 3-campus church. We are a centrally driven model, so we have one service programming director, one family ministry director, as well as campus pastors. We have one communicator generally at the broadcast location. That streams out to the satellite locations, which are portable, wow. As well as streaming online, obviously, is a big part of what we do. We've been streaming online since 2016. We started broadcasting in 2016 primarily as a tool to help our people invite their friends who wouldn't normally be in church. So really giving people a tool, if they would say, hey, come with me to church, and somebody might say, oh, I'm not ready for that. It's like, oh, well, let's watch online together, or let me send you the stream. People are a lot more likely to watch online before they'll go anywhere in person. Right. Like if you're going to a restaurant or whatever, you'll check it out online before you ever go in person. So that's why we started that. And then obviously when COVID hit, that became a lot bigger part of the picture for us as we closed our physical locations and put kind of all of our eggs in the online basket, so to speak. And yeah, we just kind of been learning as we go along.
Justin, before we start talking about YouTube, that's our main conversation for today. Many churches have decided not to open until 2021.
Yes.
But many others are getting back to in-person services and keeping their online services as well.
Yes.
So the question here for you, Justin, what is the different approach with our audience between digital engagement and personal engagement?
Yeah, great question. And I think it's important to say that the decision of when you're going to open, how you're going to open, how much energy you're going to put into opening versus being online, and when you're making those switches is going to vary from church to church, community to community, country to country. There's going to be no right answer for all churches in that regard. The one thing that I think is important to note is the internet and being online is only going to, at this point, become a bigger part of reaching people. So I think energy spent there is not misplaced. One mistake that I see a lot of churches make when it comes to engagement digitally versus engagement physically is we can tend to expect digital engagement to look the same as physical engagement, whereas it just will not look the same. And if we expect it to, we're going to set ourselves up for failure. So a way that that can look is, if somebody's coming to our church, they're attending for 2 months, after that, they might be ready to join a group, for example. Whereas if somebody is tuning in online for 2 months, they're probably not going to be ready to join a group because their investment into your community is a lot lower. In our case, before COVID, people would usually watch online for a number of months before even trying to come in person. So we can't equate 2 months of digital attendance to 2 months of physical attendance. It's different. When you're talking digital, really we have the opportunity, and it is an opportunity, to pick people up a lot earlier in their journey with you, and begin interacting with them a lot earlier in their journey with you. But their steps of engagement in your ministry are going to be a lot smaller and in shorter succession than it would be if they were meeting physically. I'm not sure if that's clear enough, but if I can give you an example, an engagement step online might be going from not subscribed to your YouTube channel to subscribed. Or it might be they shared your content for the first time with their friends. That would be a step of engagement. And we might say, no, we want people to get baptized. We want people to join groups. We want people to start giving, which is all true. But you got to go through all these other steps of engagement first.
Right.
And measuring those things and celebrating those wins is really important to a digital strategy.
So do you think, Justin, there should be two different strategies for digital engagement and personal engagement?
I don't know that there should be different in that, if you mean disparate, like there shouldn't be separate. They should work together.
Okay.
But what works in one will not work in the other. So you need to have steps of digital engagement that complement and drive towards steps that you would expect from physical engagement. So, if people become regular sharers of our content, they're becoming more of a fan every time, not to use that language, that secular language, but more involved in our ministry every time they share. Eventually, if they continue to get more and more engaged, they will eventually join a group as well. But it's two strategies working together, I would say, rather than two different strategies entirely.
All right. Justin, let's start talking about YouTube. All right.
Yes.
Last year, your average was around the 200, 250 views, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
But after 1 year, you have increased that by 18 times.
Yeah, pretty wild. Year over. Yeah.
Having more than 4,500 views on your YouTube channel. Man, those are amazing statistics. So why do you prefer YouTube over Facebook or even Instagram, Justin? Or what are the difference between those platforms? Yeah,
well, I will say, initially we were putting our focus on Facebook, and it was working for us. And YouTube was kind of like the side thing. And as we were kind of looking in the early stages of COVID at our different metrics in both platforms, we learned that our viewers on Facebook were watching for really short amounts of time. Mm-hmm. Whereas our viewers on YouTube were watching for a lot longer. So basically, the YouTube viewers were much more highly engaged. And the reason for that is, Facebook wants to show you as much content as possible, get you to like it, get you to comment. They want quick, rapid fire engagements on their platform. Whereas YouTube is designed to show people videos and keep them watching for a long time, so that they can ultimately serve people more ads. That's how they make their revenue. So the platforms are actually built for different things when it comes to video content consumption. Generally our people were watching for more than 10 times as long on YouTube than they were on average on Facebook. Also, YouTube has a lot of mechanisms for showing people outside of your relational circle your content, and exposing them to it through different mechanisms. Like it'll suggest your content to people. You might not always realize that's happening, but if you look in your metrics, you can see when that happens. And it's the second biggest search engine in the world. So, unchurched people, a lot of them are on Facebook, but more of them are probably on YouTube, and more of them are looking for answers on YouTube, particularly, than people are looking for answers on Facebook. So there's a whole pile of reasons why it made sense to kind of move over to that as a primary method of delivering our sermons. I will say it didn't feel comfortable at first, because Facebook is really good at giving you those warm and fuzzy feelings as you're seeing the like bubbles pop up and all the hearts and all that. And it feels like people are more engaged. But the reality is, and I would guess that this is true for anybody in your network as well, in Central America there, that they are not actually more engaged regardless of how it feels. So that was a bit of an uphill. Like we had to push through that discomfort to really get the results.
Man, Justin, as producer, and just to be clear here, technically speaking, all right, I will always choose to pre-record a production rather than go live.
Yep, I hear you.
And the reason for this is because I believe I will always have more control of pre-recording the live. But churches are leaving aside the technical aspects and are deciding to go live to connect with their audience and as a strategy for engagement on social media. So why did you decide to go live rather than do pre-recorded your services? And can you tell us the pros and cons of each of them on YouTube?
Yes, absolutely. So I will say there's a caveat to this whole conversation. And that is, I believe it's important to put out as high quality content as you can. And there are certain things that we could do a little bit better if we were pre-recorded, definitely. But we feel like we're striking the right balance of quality. We're not sacrificing too much quality to go live. Certain elements of our service are actually pre-recorded, like music videos, we do pre-recorded, for example, but hosting, sermon, all that is always live. And part of the main reason is if you are live, you have a unique opportunity to engage people in your audience in real time. You can have like a chat open and you can see people come into the chat and you can look at the camera and say their name, and that is a wow moment for a new guest. If somebody is tuning in, they're brand new to your church and they tune into your live stream and they're just kind of getting a feel for it. And someone says, "Oh, hey, so-and-so just joined us online. So glad that you could make it here this morning." That's like, wow, I'm connected. Rather than, you tune on and you watch a video that's obviously been pre-recorded. So that's probably the biggest plus from my perspective, is being able to engage with your people in real time, being able to engage with new people in real time. It's a lot more engaging of experience than if you're just watching pre-recorded content. I have a couple theories as well. Like we know that YouTube and Facebook can scan our content They can transcribe our content in real time using AI. So they know, like, they're able to evaluate the type of video content that we're putting out there. We've seen a couple times where, you know, we've pre-recorded a sermon for a specific reason. And then YouTube doesn't distribute that at the same rate to people outside of our core audience. So we've seen some evidence that live content that YouTube can say, I'm pretty sure this is actually live. It's not like getting recycled service over service. Actually is distributed more widely by the platform. I haven't been able to corroborate that by anything I've seen from YouTube, but that's what our evidence kind of points to at this point. So I would say for those reasons, like, there's a lot of advantages of going live versus going pre-recorded. Also, live videos on YouTube get distributed differently than a premiere would, for example. Same on Facebook, if you happen to be streaming on Facebook. So it just makes sense from reaching the most amount of people and reaching them the most effectively, rather than making it easier for us. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a mission decision, really.
Great. Justin, I know that you guys have a strategy to manage your content during the week, and including the way you do lives on Sunday.
Yep.
So can you tell us more about it and how you manage your content on YouTube?
Yep. So a couple things. We were finding that, originally what we would do at the beginning of COVID, same thing we did before COVID, we would have our service, we would post a sermon online after, and we would post the full service as well for people who wanted to access the music or any other special video that we did. And as we were going through the COVID season, we were finding that our sermon views were going up rather steeply, but our full service videos were not. The views were quite low. So we're like, people always tell us they love the music. Like, why aren't people watching these videos? So we started posting our content in more what I would call like YouTube native formats. So like, we post our sermon standalone video, and we post every song that we did that week as a standalone music video, which is a format that people are a lot more used to engaging with on YouTube. So that's one kind of hack of how we manage our content. And then we saw the views start going way up on that content as well. Also titling our content for search, trying to identify what is the question that an unchurched person has that this sermon will answer, and title the question that way. That's another way that we manage our content. And really always pointing our audience back to, hey, you want to get our content, you got to go to our channel, you got to subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, all that stuff as well. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but.
Yeah. The way you go lives on Sunday, Justin.
Yep.
So can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yep. So what we do is we go live at the beginning of our first service. We keep the live stream on for all of the subsequent services. So basically, it's a big live stream. Whenever people arrive at that link, they're getting us where we're at. We turn off our, it's called a DVR feature in YouTube, so that people can't see that the stream's been up for like 4 hours or whatever. We do 4 services. We shortened our services also as well for online. I think that's important to note. People's attention span is a lot less when they're on the internet than it is in the room. And what we do after the fact is we just let that stream roll for the whole morning. People come in, they leave, people come for the next service, those people leave. Then once we're all done, we post, we choose the best sermon out of all of them, and we edit it down in YouTube's editor. And then basically all the views that we had from that morning are loaded into that file. So YouTube is able to say, oh, this is like a 29-minute video. It's got however many views we got that morning. Obviously, this is popular content. I'm going to start showing it to more people because obviously all these people came and liked it. And that has been something that really worked for us, rather than we do 4 separate streams and we just keep the one up that had the most views. No, what we do is we get all of our views in one stream and then we post that. And it's not a vanity thing. It's just the more views a video has, the more people YouTube will show it to. So that's what we want. We want people to find our content.
Man, that's so pretty interesting. So you stream once and you have 4 services in one stream.
Yeah, so we basically have our live stream up for the whole time.
For how many hours? 4, 5? 6?
Yeah, well, we shortened our services. So generally our services are 45, 50 minutes online. We're still only online. Okay. And so it's about a 4-hour stream by the time we're done to do 4 services.
So even when you edit each service for YouTube, it's just one file.
Yep. Wow. Yeah, and then we edit it down after the fact to just a single sermon.
Gotcha. That's so interesting. Justin, let's talk about practical stuff, but very important details to know about YouTube. Why are thumbnails, the name of your video, and keywords so important?
Yeah, well, YouTube is a search engine. So if you're not using terms that people are searching for, people are not going to come to your content. Like, I think every church who is doing like a quasi-attractional model can fall into the trap of, you create this really artistic series name. I don't know. We've got a series coming up. It's going to be called Identity Theft. But people searching for identity theft on YouTube, our content is probably not going to match what they're looking for. So, we're trying to figure out what is the felt need under this series, each message, that people are going to be looking for, and then titling it that way. So then when people type in the search term into YouTube and get to your video, hopefully, what they find is going to be relevant to what they were looking for. And that's one way to get new audience on YouTube. So that's really important. There are keywording tools that you can use. vidIQ is one, Morning Fame is another one. That's really helpful to trying to find, they call it the highest volume but lowest competition keywords. So a keyword that a lot of people are searching, but there's not a lot of good content for. And then hopefully you can begin ranking for that keyword. Thumbnails are actually critical. And so many people leave thumbnails out of the equation because when YouTube recommends content to people, your video is going to appear in a list with 4 or 5 other videos. And you know how people are wired? Like, people are visual. So their odds are, however you title it, the title may help you get there when people search it, but people are going to decide which video to play based on what they see.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm like that.
Absolutely. Most people are. So we track it's called our click-through rate, how many people get shown our video versus how many people actually click on it. And we try and always make sure we're moving that percentage up by how we design the thumbnails. Having text on the thumbnail to kind of tease out that you're going to answer a person's question is a good thing. Making sure all your thumbnails don't look the same. Making sure they look professional. It's actually like, it would be easy to consider that graphic almost like a throwaway from our perspective. But we actually put a lot of thought and energy into what that looks like, because that thumbnail could be the first impression that an unchurched person has of our church. So we want to make sure that it's going to get them to our content.
Man, we just heard good stuff. In an interview that you had with Titley Crew, I heard about how churches right now are digital organizations.
Yes.
And I agree, and I believe that because we live in times of consumerism. And if we want our churches to be part of this consumerism, it has to be digital. So can you explain to us what you meant by going from being local organizations with a digital expressions to a digital organizations with a local expression?
Definitely. I think, like you say, you see this the most clearly in the business world, different models of operation. So a local organization with a digital expression. I'll give you an example of that. That might be like Walmart, for example, where Walmart is, if you live in the US, or we have them in Canada too. I don't know if you have them where you are or not, but a Walmart is like a physical store, and you go to Walmart generally. That's your kind of primary experience with Walmart. If you want, Walmart has a website, so you can find out their hours. Walmart started selling things online recently, so they're, moving ahead in that. But still, generally, if you want to interact with Walmart, you need to go to Walmart.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a physical organization with a digital expression. A digital organization with physical expressions is a lot newer model of operating an organization. There's a company in the US. You can check them out. It's a glasses company. This is the company that I used an example in that video you're talking about. It's called Warby Parker, WARBY PARKER. It's a great glasses. They have beautiful glasses. Their online shopping experience is good. But they also have a couple of physical stores that you can go to if you really want to. There's not very many, but it's not, their first experience is online, for the majority of their customers. And they have these physical expressions that if you really want to go to one, you can go to one. Apple would be another one where I would say probably fits into this category. Apple has actually made the shift from you used to have to go somewhere to buy a Mac to now most of the time when you buy a Mac computer, it's online and you can go to a store if you really want to. And likewise, if the church is going to survive into the next season, if there's one place that nearly every unchurched person is every day, it's the internet. So why would the church not make that their primary location as well? We have an opportunity to reach people where they're at. And if we're waiting, or if we're going to stay in the mindset of we have a place that we want people to come to, and that's the primary way that they engage with us, we're going to get left behind in the past. We need to move to a place where we are more than that. We are a community of people. We are present with people wherever they are. And when people also have an opportunity to come worship in person once a week if they are in a position to do so. That's kind of, I think, the shift that we all need to wrestle down with. What does that look like? What does that mean with, how much energy we're putting into our Sunday experience versus, what is going on the rest of the week? How are we maximizing the content that we're creating? In every church, or in a lot of churches, there's somebody who is writing out and delivering, a 40-minute to 60-minute, let's say, sermon every week. Then what happens to that content afterwards? Do you post it on the internet maybe? Maybe we should be creating blog posts out of that content. Maybe we should be transcribing it and creating micro videos out of it. Maybe we could create a course out of it to help people where they're at and engage them in different ways. Rather than just letting it die by the wayside every week. I think those are some of the questions that we need to be asking as we collectively try and make that shift, which I think is going to be a critical shift for the church as a whole.
For sure. Justin, just to wrap up our conversation, more than 8 countries around Latin America and Europe are going to listen to this video. So can you give us one last piece of advice on how to crack the YouTube code?
Yes. YouTube is a long game, not a short game. You're going to feel like you're grinding it out for a long time without any result. You're going to have times of high momentum, then you're going to lose it. You're going to have times where YouTube is recommending content like crazy, and you're wondering where all the viewers are coming from, and then it will stop, and then it will pick up again. If you follow, people who are professional YouTube streamers and professional YouTubers, you see them talking about this all the time. It's a slow, steady building of your audience, much like building a church physically is. It doesn't just happen overnight. There's no silver bullet. You just need to keep going. And that perseverance, that dedication to reaching people, keeping the vision at the forefront of what you're doing, is the most important thing to cracking the YouTube code, I think. There will be times where you feel like you're failing, and there will be times where you feel like it's not happening fast enough, or you question yourself. You just need to keep going because, let's be honest, YouTube, Google, people are there. We need to be there. And it just takes time. It takes time to build it.
That is so true. Thank you, Justin. Thank you so much for your time. It has been an honor to talk to you, and I know that we will keep learning from you and by everything you guys are doing in Connexus Church in Canada.
Yeah, no problem. I want to say, if anyone wants to send me a message, you can friend me on Facebook.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, send me a message on there. I'm always happy to, we're all in this together, right? There's a great Facebook group too, YouTube Your Church, where a lot of people are trying to figure this out together. Also, look outside church world, get in some communities where, secular streamers are trying to figure this out, secular YouTubers. There's a lot of valuable insight to be had there as well. So yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.